All right, there's Jim. All right, so today we have got a topic that I think you guys are going to enjoy. Today I wanted to look at, and over the weekend, I thought long and hard to say, what do I feel is the greatest secret to my success? So if I boil everything down over the past 2.5 decades of all of the learning that I've gotten between my mentors of Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Grant Cardone now, Gary Vee, all the people, Mel Robbins, that I've been studying with and working with, and people I've gotten to know. If I had to look at the differentiators between what makes them successful versus other people, if you guys remember a few weeks ago, I talked about being more self-aware. That's a big piece of it. So they're more conscious of the decisions they're making. But all of this boils down to, thank you, Riley. I said the countdown's still up. There we go. All right. So thank you for handling all the AV, Riley. You're good at this stuff. I'll actually take a picture. You guys should see we've got 3 different cameras up here. We've got a computer screen. We've got an iPad screen. So we look like we're mission control here. Hey, Kayla. So all of that, though, when I talk about being more self-aware, it all bleeds into the success principle, okay? So if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down, and I'm going to prove this to you today as we go through the content. And this, again, is going back all the way. I actually have a really awesome quote from Albert Einstein as well about this. I actually reading the book, had read the book now 2 times, which is a tough book to get through, which is The Buffett Way. And if I had to take all of this and put it in a funnel and narrow that funnel down to the key to success, I will tell you the power of whether you're successful or not is determined by the questions you're asking. So I want you to write down the power of questions. Whether you are successful or not comes down to the questions you're asking yourself. So, for example, if you have, let's picture your brain again as a computer, and you're putting in that computer a piece of software, and the software is the questions you're asking yourself, and those questions you're asking yourself will manifest into the results. You see, your brain, as I've said over and over again, your brain is a self-justifying system. Your brain finds the answer to whatever questions you're asking it. So if you feel you have a lousy life, it's because you have lousy questions you're asking yourself. And I look at my life, for example, and I will tell you the reason why I've been as successful as I have been, and the reason why when most people say quit, I'll give you an example here. About 2.5 months ago, I had to raise $340,000 within a few weeks, and instead of asking myself and going in and saying, man, I can't do that, and putting my brain in stop mode, I said, how can I do that? Well, I said, I don't know the answer to it. I don't know the answer to how I'm going to do it. Well, if you did know the answer, what would that answer be? And I kept digging down and peeling layers, because what most people do is they ask a lousy question, they get an answer, and their brain stops trying to compute. Their brain stops trying to take that software or that program, and it stops, right? So write this down that I just mentioned, which is if you have a lousy life, or you feel you have a lousy life, is because you have lousy questions you're asking yourself. So I'm going to read this from Albert Einstein, which I love this quote. He said, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on it, I would use the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. Again, Albert Einstein said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, my life depended on it, I would use the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. So, first of all, you guys know how I talk a lot about the state and the state you're in, the mindset you're in, or whether or not you're creating or you're destroying, whether you're moving forward or moving backwards, whether you feel immobilized or whether you feel empowered. You will have a better state if you ask yourself better questions. And I'm going to cover some of these questions and give you some examples here today too. So for example, let's talk about some lousy questions you can ask yourself. So a sample of a lousy question might be, excuse me, why does this always happen to me? Why does this shit always happen to me? Well, now if you ask yourself that question, what's your brain going to do? Imagine your brain being a genie. Your brain says, your wish is my command. I'm going to give you all the reasons why my life is so lousy. So why, these things, always bad things happen to me. Or if you ask yourself the question, how come I never can lose weight? Well, we all know we can lose weight, but if you say, how can I how come I can never lose weight? Your brain finds a way to justify it by saying, because you're a fat ass, because I eat everything in sight. Whatever it might be, we find answers to the questions we're asking ourselves. So what are some of the things that you can control? And what are some questions you can ask yourself that'll empower you? So I want you to actually write down, I'm going to actually ask you guys for feedback, and this is actually one of the times I can actually see your answers here. So I want you to type in the chat window. So if I asked you this question, so what if you woke up every single morning, and every single morning you wanted to put yourself in a positive state? You wanted to put yourself in a state that's resourceful. So write this down as well. There's never, ever in this world a lack of resources. There's a lack of resourcefulness. There's never a lack of resources. There's a lack of resourcefulness. So, you guys remember 2 weeks ago I talked about some of the movies you guys should watch, Kori at the Movies, and I talked about Bill Gates' movie or TV series, the 3-part series on Netflix about Bill's brain, right? And you look at the things that he has done, and if you dig down deep, you'll see that the reason why he succeeded the way he succeeded, and the reason he continues to succeed to eradicate polio or to find ways to change climate change in a massive way, he asked himself different questions than most people will. Some other examples of while you're thinking about this stuff, some other examples are, do you guys remember the gal, I don't remember her name, but Edwin Land, his daughter loved taking pictures. Her dad was a photographer, and her dad would take pictures of her, and she loved taking pictures. So she asked her dad a question. The question was, why do we have to wait so long to see the picture? Because back in those days, it was all about either you could actually send them off to get the pictures back, right, when you took pictures, or you had another option, which is that you would actually take the pictures and then take the film in and actually put it in the whole process of making that picture come to life, right? Well, he spent a few years, and after a few years, that one question his daughter asked, which is, why do we have to wait so long to see the pictures? His young daughter asked that question when she was 9 years old. He ended up, the solution he found was eventually the Polaroid camera. Another example is I was fortunate to meet Joe Gebbia and Brian Chesky. Joe Gebbia was actually at Tony Robbins' event in Amsterdam, and he told the story. He was on stage, told the story of Airbnb. So he asked the question, him and his roommate, and said, why does it have to cost so much, to have an overpriced, go into a new city, there's overpriced hotels. Why do you have to pay so much? So what if we rented out a spot on our floor in our basically 2-bedroom apartment? We rented that out at a cheaper price because you have a blow-up mattress and they can sleep on the floor. And that one question he asked turned into Airbnb. Other people ask the question about, for example, Uber or Lyft. Ask the question, well, why do we have to use taxi cabs, and why can't people that are using their car have a way to earn money by taking somebody from point A to point B? And that became, and understand something. Airbnb doesn't have assets. They don't own any of the hotel. I mean, they actually have a more volume, more market cap than 3/4 of the largest hotel brands in the world that have billions and billions of dollars invested in all these assets. There's zero assets. They simply do a shared program with people that own homes, or with Airbnb, or with Lyft, or with Uber. Same concept. It's a different set of questions. Or Facebook, whether you believe the Winklevoss brothers, or whether you believe Zuckerberg with Facebook. The whole reality, they had a simple question, which is, how do we connect people? How do we connect people? Allow them to share. So the questions that people ask, or you look at Elon Musk, hey, why can't I send a car to Mars? Why can't we live on Mars? Why can't we build a hyperloop, right? All these things, the great advancements in our society, or the Wright brothers, why can't we take an airplane and fly? Why can't we fly? All of these questions produce results. I could keep going on and on and on. Disney said, why do all these theme parks have to look like a fair? Why can't we create this amazing theme park where people can come and just, dream? Why can't we create something like that? And it became Disney, right? I mean, all these examples of people, or whether it's, inventing the light bulb, Thomas Edison, went through 1,000 different processes. Or someone like Colonel Sanders. Why can't I take my recipe and get a piece of, sell the recipe, but not just sell the recipe, get a piece of all the money that comes in as a revenue stream from my recipe? All of these ideas came down to they asked themselves a question, and they kept sitting on the question until they found an answer. That's the difference between people that are amazing and people that are average, is average people have average questions they ask. Average people have average questions they ask. So if you, again, wake up every single morning and say, why is my day shitty? You're going to find it. If you go to a party, for example, and you and I go to the same exact party, and you go to the party and say, why are people looking at me funny? Or why are people, out to get me? Or, I wear a certain outfit. Why do people look at me this way, right? And you and I can come back away from that party, and I'm asking myself questions like, why do people love hanging around me? Or why is this an amazing party? Or the questions you're asking in your brain, your life is producing the result. So if I ask you right now, what is shitty in your life right now? Could you not find those answers? Okay. So let me ask you some things. What if you woke up every single morning, and every single morning you started with the right questions, first of all? And then we'll dig down a bit deeper. So what if you started with the questions, and I want you to type in the answers here. I want you to type in the answers in the chat window. I like participation. If you guys don't participate, I hate doing these. I want to get feedback from you guys. So here's some questions. What could I be grateful for in my life right now? So I want you to type in the chat window. If you ask yourself the question, what could you be grateful for if you had to? If you had to find something to be grateful for, what could you be grateful for right now in your life? And you might say, well, I don't know. No, I'm asking you, if you did know, what would the answer be? What could you be grateful for right now that's happening in your life? What could you be grateful for? Type in the chat window. Let me ask you another question. What could you be excited about right now in your life? What could you be excited about that's coming up that you could be excited about happening in your life? What could you be excited about? Caleb, you better say a new baby. What could you be excited about? So Karen's grateful for healthy kids, Energy Network, health, opportunity, friends, family, and health, grandkids, family. Okay, so let me ask you a question. How quickly can you change your mindset? How quickly can you change your state? You can change it that fast. Now, if you woke up every single morning and say, what are the 3 things I could be grateful for? Type in the chat window. What are the 3 things you could be grateful for? Ken Burns, kids, in events, Inner Circle, Atlanta, new car. Oh, yeah, Karen. So we see a theme here. Now, my question to you is this. When in that little bit of time, so the last minute and a half, when I asked you, what could you be grateful for right now in your life? Pick 3 things. What are you excited about in your life? Pick 3 things. Now, I want you to type in the chat window as well. Name 3 people that love you. Name 3 people that absolutely love you. And type in the chat window. Now, as you're doing that, I want to ask you a question. Did that not lift your state up to a higher standard? Meaning, during that little bit of time, a couple minutes now that we've done this exercise, did it not put you in a different place? Did it not put you in a better place? So that's the first thing that I do as far as my success formula when I wake up in the morning, is I ask myself these questions in my head. And I get the right answers because I'm asking the right questions. So again, if I'm using this in a sales capacity as an example, I'll tell you how this works in every single situation. When I'm selling something, and I'm pretty good at selling, and the reason I'm good at selling because I understand psychology of people. So if I ask questions to people, I always ask them questions that I already know the answer for in a positive way. So if I ask them, for example, what do you think? If I go through the whole sales pitch of some capacity, I say, what do you think? Or do you want to move forward? Now, I can't control that, but if I ask the question, what do you like best about what I've gone over so far? What do you like best about what I've shared with you what this product could do for your company? What do you like best about it? Well, now what's happening is they're focusing. I just grabbed a hold and I chose where they have to focus. So now they're telling me the solutions of what they like best about it, and now I know how to close them. If you have a situation in your life, for example, you have a bill to pay you can't pay, or you've got a situation that's happening, or if you find out you've got some kind of debilitating disease, for example. If you say, why does this always happen to me? I'm not going to live much longer. What's miserable in my life? And I start picking those things because I'm asking myself those questions. Versus, what if I ask myself the question, how am I going to beat this shit? How am I going to fight this? How am I going to find the answer to my cancer? So now if I'm asking myself those questions, what expert do I have to bring into my life to be able to handle this disease? Who do I have to go to? How do I find the money to take care of this? You see the questions I'm asking? That's different than most people. Most people hide in their shell and they're asking themselves the wrong questions. They're asking themselves, why does this happen to me? Why is this, why does my life shit? What am I going to do now? I put myself in the exact wrong state. I'm not going to find the answers. You cannot be resourceful in a shitty state. I always choose the state that I put myself in. Understand, your body is keeping you away from fear. Your brain is a 2 million-year-old brain that wants to keep you away from anything that's painful. So what does it do? It finds excuses. It finds justifications. It answers the questions you're giving it. So what I'm saying is, if you start choosing the questions you're asking yourself and never say die, you'll always get the result you want. You'll always get the result you want because you will find a way over it, under it, through it. You will find a way to get over that obstacle if you ask yourself the right questions. But if you put yourself in an immobilizing state, you put yourself in a mobilizing a question, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be immobilized. You're not going to move forward and you will stop dead. That brick wall's there, you'll slam into that brick wall, and that's all there is to it. Versus you're asking yourself, how do I get through this shit? How do I figure this thing out? When my kids come to me, my daughter says, I don't know how to do a back spin. I don't know how to do this in gymnastics. I don't know how to do this in soccer. Well, if you did know, if you did know, what would the answer be? If you were brave and confident, how would you walk in the room? If you could control this situation, what would you do? You see how we're constantly asking questions? And those questions are leading your brain to keep processing, to keep computing, to put yourself in a better state. So it's called a pattern interrupt. You can use a pattern interrupt to say, when you start feeling shitty, is what am I happy about right now? What did I do today to move the needle forward? How am I going to figure this out? You see the power of questions? Type in the chat window if you guys see what I'm talking about. Type in the chat window if you understand what I'm sharing with you and you understand how this makes sense, and think about your own life and how your own life is determined by the questions you're asking. If your life is not where you want it to be, you're asking the wrong questions. It's that simple. If you want a better life, you got to ask yourself better questions. Write down part of your homework here if you give a shit. And I'm not joking. When I look at my social media, it makes me laugh and I'm not joking. Half the people that are out there, half the people hate me. Which, thank you, haters. I appreciate all the follow and the likes and building the controversy and what I do to the point where it's been as successful as it has been. Thank you, haters. I've got about 40% that just watch me for entertainment value and 10% actually do something. If you want to be a 10% that actually fucking does something with your body, with your health, with your finances, with all of the things, your love life, all the things that are happening in your life, I will tell you, always find a solution if you keep focusing on what the solution is. Read Elon Musk's book and look at Elon Musk's story. When his car he had 2 weeks of payroll left, and he said, instead of saying, why does this happen to me? Why did we have a recession? All of a sudden he's got a car that's a high end, $120,000, $130,000 car, and it's the only car he had at the time when the recession hit in 2008. So instead of saying, why the fuck does this happen to me? He says, how do I get this company through? How do I get this company through? How do I come back to the core? And how do I find a way through it? So guess what he did? He found a way by going to the investors and his corporate team, his board of directors, and said, I'm dumping everything I've got left into this company. And they saw that and said, if he believes in it that much, I will dump in as well. And that got him through the recession to build Tesla. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but I will tell you, the people that are massively successful in this world, they're massively successful because they ask themselves better questions. Now, this sounds so simplistic, but think of the questions you ask yourself. Actually think about consciously your brain and the questions you're asking yourself. Remember how I talked about 91% of the thoughts you had today are the same thoughts you had yesterday, same thoughts you had 2 weeks ago. We go on autopilot. So the difference is the 9% that you're choosing to control, and you're choosing to control it by the questions you're asking. I know I'm making this very simplistic, but I wanted to make this very simple to say, hey, if I had to take, again, a laser focus and take a magnifying glass and laser focus it on what in my life, the difference between why I push through, why I get done what I need to get done, why I always find the finish line is because I never say die. I find a way over it, under it, through it, and the way my brain keeps working. First of all, we all talk about the big enough reason why, but you've got to have a big enough reason why. But guess what? I always find out how. The how I always find out. Because I don't ever say uncle. I don't ever say, why does this happen to me? I don't ever let my brain go to that direction. I always ask myself, if I did know the answer, what would it be? And tell me if this isn't true. You know how misery loves company? So if you're having some bad things happen in your life and you're sitting down with other people and you're bitching to them about it, right? So I want you to try something because it's easy for us to not see our own shit. But I want you to see this with your kids and see this with other people around you. So I want you to look at their life when they come to you, start complaining about things. Yes, have a bit of sympathy because they're going through something traumatic. But what I want you to do is start asking them different questions. It's going to surprise the shit out of them. But start asking them different questions. Well, if you did know, what would you do differently? In your relationship, what do you know you need to do? If you were giving yourself advice in this situation, knowing all the facts, what would you say? And what's interesting to watch is your kids will start thinking differently. They will start processing things differently. As I've said before, it is never, ever a lack of resources, a lack of resourcefulness. It's finding a way. I can tell you story upon story upon story upon story. Those are coming to, how many of you guys are coming to Atlanta? We've got our Six-Figure Inner Circle Legacy Conference, Six-Figure Inner Circle coaching program coming up in Atlanta. We're taking 30 people, and we've guaranteed them. They will make if they give me 10 hours a week, I'm going to show them exactly what to do. 10 hours a week, I've guaranteed them $100,000 in closed business within a year worth of commission to them, closed commission to them within 1 year. I've guaranteed it because I know success leaves clues. I know if you do A, B, you're going to get C, and that's investing only 10 hours a week in doing that. And those of you who are not in Atlanta, you're going to be very privileged because since I'm going to be there, you're going to get a chance to meet David Asarno. How many of you guys have met David Asarno? Those that were at the Vegas conference with me. David Asarno, by the way, a little bit of his background. David is a 5-time ClickFunnels 2 Comma Club winner, 2018 an 8-figure award winner. Now, if you don't know what that is, look it up. It's a huge deal. Currently manages over $2 million of monthly Facebook, or I should say not just Facebook, all of social media spend. So $2 million a month of social media spend. In his 20s, he built a $45 million business within a 50-year-old company, $45 million worth of new division in less than 5 years. In his 30s, he launched a national franchise chain. Entrepreneur Magazine called it in the top 15 franchises. And he's also been a top speaker for Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes from the Ultimate Sales Machine. And I'm going to interview him with you guys next week. Next Monday, you'll hear an interview with me and him in Atlanta at a normal time. And so what you're going to see is I'm going to start bringing this out. I'm going to start asking some people I interview these same things, which is, what are the questions you ask yourself when you hit a brick wall? Remember, success leaves clues. And what I want you to do is look at every single massively successful, game-changing person on this planet over the last several decades. And I want you to say this to yourself. What question must they have asked themselves to accomplish that? How do they think differently than I think? But if you can determine the questions they ask themselves, you will get similar results because your brain goes into a mode of figuring the answers out. If you put a piece of software in a computer, you have this whole program for this computer. You put the software in there, and the software gets so far, so it's looking for the answers, and you yank that software out of the computer. How long will it keep trying to compute? It'll stop. It'll stop dead in its tracks. But if you put that program in and you get to the result, you're like, I don't like that result. Guess what? What questions should you ask yourself? How can I figure this out? How can I get through this situation? How can I get through this challenge? So going back, start in the morning by asking yourself the right questions. What am I grateful for? What do I love? What am I excited about? And that should be 10 minutes of your morning. You guys know I'm a big believer in incantation. I'm a big believer in every single morning on meditation, getting my mind right. I only do 10 minutes a day because I'm not really good at sitting still. But 10 minutes a day. And those are the questions that go into my brain as I'm sitting there. What am I grateful for? What do I love? And who loves me? And what am I excited about? Now I start my day correct. And then I go a step further with the questions. So I might ask myself, what are some of the challenges I've got to work through today? Now, again, I never say problems. That's something else you guys know that have been around me very long. I never, ever use the word problems. That's a problem. I use the word challenge because now it intrigues me. Now it's something I can figure out. What are the challenges I have to deal with today? And then I ask myself, how am I going to figure this out? What resources do I need to bring at my disposal to make this happen? You see the difference in the questions I'm asking myself? So your homework is this. Write down, number one, is every day work on this. Every single day, ask yourself when you wake up, what am I grateful for? What do I love and who loves me? And what am I excited about? Number two is acknowledge you've got some things to work through today, the challenges. What are the challenges I have to work through today and figure out? What are the challenges I have to figure out this month? And then ask yourself the second question of that, which is the positive part of it, is what resources do I have at my disposal to figure this out? If I did know the answer, what would it be? Right? Don't go into a mobilized state. Go into a resourceful state. When you're in a resourceful state, you look for resources. So if, again, I'm just telling you this so simple, if you want to change your life, change the questions you're asking yourself. And think of the questions you're asking. When your kids ask you questions, when they say things like, I can't do it, but if you could do it, what would you do? If you could do it, how would you do it? Well, I'm just not confident. I can't get out there. I can't stand up in front of the kids in school. But if you were confident, how would you walk in the room? How would somebody confident do it? You see how you're taking your brain and you're making it keep computing. You keep it, try figuring it out. You keep it into the how am I going to accomplish it? Because once you give an excuse, once you ask the wrong question, you stop looking. All right, hope you guys got something out of this today. Don't miss next Monday. We're going to bring in David Asarno. If you have not donated yet this month, again, I'm matching you guys 100% Operation Underground Railroad, which assists girls or kids that are sold into sex slavery. Basically, every $2,500 it costs on average to get one child out. Go to Operation Underground Railroad to learn more. You can go to my Facebook page, Kori Lee Official on Facebook. My Facebook page, and go down. You'll see, again, a place you can donate. Again, I will match you 100% throughout the end of this month. So November 1st, I'm going to match whatever you guys have donated, all of you guys watching me. And I'm just going to tell you point blank. This again is the truth, is that one of the reasons I didn't go live last Monday is I looked at how many of you guys have contributed. I look at your social media stuff as well, those people that I actually enjoy. I watch you guys out, going out to eat, taking pictures of food. I see you guys going out for drinks and partying. Some of you guys haven't donated. I mean, to me, it's crazy that we'll go spend $60-$70 going out for one night. That's the cheap side of it, buying a few drinks. Or you'll spend $150 going out to eat and going out for drinks. Or buying things to go out and party to watch a football game, or buying a ticket for a concert, and yet you can't donate $100, $200, $300, $400, $500 towards Underground Railroad to allow children to be. I mean, imagine if that was your child. Imagine if that was your child that got sold into sex slavery. Would you not want someone to come in and get that child out of there, to bring your child back home to you? So do a little bit of due diligence on Operation Underground Railroad, and I encourage you to donate towards it. And I will match it 100% by the end of this month. For November 1st, I'll match whatever you guys donate 100%. As of right now, we've got not quite one child that we're able to save. So I'm encouraging you guys to dig deep, look at your own situation, and contribute. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Talk soon. Bye-bye, everybody.